Welcome to the sixth night of Hanukkah with Monika. If you've been keeping up with my videos, this is the sixth night of Hanukkah. And we only have 2 more nights. So, if you watched last night's episode, you will notice I'm wearing my earrings. And also, I'm going to be reading you one of my favorite Hanukkah stories, Hershal and the Hanukkah Goblins, by Kimmel. So the thing about this story is that for the longest of times, I didn't think it was real. Because here's the thing, I didn't know that it was called Hershal and the Hanukkah Goblins. All I knew was that it was a Hanukkah story that featured goblins of some sort and a jar of pickles. And that's all I knew about this story. So, I'm happy to say, I bring to you Hershal and the Hanukkah Goblins by Kimmel, illustrated by Trina Shart-Hyman. Without further ado, let's get into it. It was the first night of Hanukkah. Hershal of Ostropol was walking down the road. He was tired and hungry. Nonetheless, his step was light. Soon he would reach the next village, where bright candles, merry songs, and platters piled high with tasty potato latkes awaited him. But when he arrived, the village was silent and dark. Not a single Hanukkah candle could be seen. "Isn't tonight the first night of Hanukkah?" Hershal asked the villagers. "We don't have Hanukkah, Hershal," one of them answered sadly. "No Hanukkah? How can that be?" "It's because of the goblins. They haunt the old synagogue at the top of the hill. They hate Hanukkah. Whenever we try to light a menorah, the goblins blow out the candles. They break our dreidels. They throw our potato latkes on the floor. These wicked goblins make our lives miserable all year long. But on Hanukkah, it's really bad." Hershal knew he must help the village people. "I'm not afraid of goblins. I ain't afraid of no ghosts," he said. "Tell me how to get rid of them." "It's not as easy as you think," the rabbi warned. "You must spend 8 nights in the old synagogue. The Hanukkah candles must be lit each night. On the 8th night, the king of the goblins must light them himself. That is the only way to break their power." "I'm not afraid, Rabbi," Hershal said. "If I can't outwit a few goblins, then my name isn't Hershal of Ostropol." "Hershal, I love you." The villagers wished Hershal good luck. They had no potato latkes to give him, so they packed several hard-boiled eggs for him to eat, along with a big jar of pickles. "This is the pickles!" The rabbi gave Hershal a brass menorah, a package of candles, and a box of matches. Then the villagers said goodbye. Nobody expected to see Hershal again. It was long past sundown by the time Hershal climbed to the top of the hill where the old synagogue stood. The crumbling building was gloomy and dark, and rusty hinges squealed as Hershal opened the door. Well, could he believe that goblins lived here? He put 2 candles in the menorah and set it on the windowsill. He struck a match and lit the shamus candle. He said the blessings and was about to light the other candle when he heard a voice. "Hey! What are you doing?" Hershal turned around. Here was a goblin, no bigger than a horsefly, with a long, pointy tail and 2 little bat's wings, hovering in the air. "I'm lighting Hanukkah candles," Hershal said. "Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah." "Oh, no, it's not. We don't allow Hanukkah. Not around here." "Is that so?" said Hershal. "Who's going to stop me? A little pipsqueak like you?" I may be little, but I'm strong, said the goblin. Really? Can you crush rocks in your hand? Asked Hershal. The goblin laughed. Crush rocks? You're joking! Nobody's that strong. I am. Watch. Hershal took a hard-boiled egg from his pocket and squeezed it until the yolk and white ran through his fingers. That's how hard I'm going to squeeze you if you try to stop me from lighting these candles. The little goblin's eyes opened wide, since in the dim light the egg looked exactly like a rock. The little goblin shook with fear. You leave me alone, he squeaked. Gladly, said Hershal, if you let me light my candles in peace. All right, said the goblin. One night won't make a difference, but you better not be here tomorrow. Big, scary goblins are coming, much bigger than I. If they catch you lighting Hanukkah candles, you'll be sorry. We'll see about that, Hershal said to himself. He lit the first candle. On the second night, another goblin appeared. This one was big and fat and waddled like a goose. Hershal was finishing his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs. Ugh. Have some pickles, he said to the goblin. Pickles? Here, catch. Hershal tossed him a sour pickle. The goblin caught it in his mouth and swallowed it. Pickles are good. Do you like them? I have plenty in this jar. Take all you want. The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claws could hold, but when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. This is it! I'm stuck, the goblin shouted. You put a spell on this jar to hold me fast. That's right, Hershal said, laughing. And it's a very powerful spell. You came here tonight to stop me from lighting Hanukkah candles. So now, I am going to light them while you stand with your hand in that jar and watch. How do you like that? No! No! The goblin screamed. I hate Hanukkah! Too bad. You'll have to get used to it. Hershal said the blessings and lit the candles. Slowly. Then he sang all his favorite Hanukkah songs. The goblin wailed and carried on so much that Hershal finally decided to let him go. Shall I tell you how to break the spell? Yes, I can't stand it anymore. Let go the pickles. Your greed is the only spell holding you prisoner. The goblin let go the pickles. His hand slipped out of the jar easily. How that goblin raged! He had stood with his hand in a pickle jar while Hershal lit Hanukkah candles under his nose. The furious goblin stamped his foot so hard that he shattered into a million pieces. The wind blew them away. The third night came. Hershal felt something watching him as he set the candles in the menorah. Instead of lighting them, he began playing with the dreidel. An hour passed. Hershal looked up. Sitting across the table was another goblin. This one had a fiery red face and 2 enormous horns. It's getting late, the goblin said. When are you gonna light the candles? Later. There's plenty of time. Hershal spun his dreidel. This is more fun. What are you playing with? The goblin asked. It looks like a top. It's a dreidel. Don't you know about dreidels? No. Too bad. Dreidels are lots of fun. You can also make lots of money if you know how to play. Watch my 4th video to learn how to play dreidel. Really? The goblin was interested now. All goblins like money. This one was no exception. How do you play? It's very simple, Hershal said. But you must have some gold. That's the first rule. I have plenty. Is this enough? The goblin poured a pile of gold coins onto the table. "That's fine," Hershal said. "Listen carefully now. This letter is shin. If it comes up, you give me a handful of gold. This letter is hey. If it comes up, you give me half your gold. This is Kimmel. If the dreidel falls on this letter, you give me all your gold. Understand?"
Wait, there's one letter left. What about this one?
That's none. If the dreidel falls on none, I don't give you anything. Ready? Let's play. You go first. The goblin spun the dreidel. The little top whirled around and round. When it fell, the letter on top was shin. "Too bad," Hershal said, taking a big handful of the goblin's gold. "Try again. Maybe you'll have better luck." The goblin spun the dreidel once more. This time, it fell on hay. "This isn't your night," Hershal said, helping himself to half the goblin's gold. "One more time. Your luck is bound to improve." Once again, the goblin spun. This time, the dreidel landed on Kimmel. "Too bad," Hershal sighed as he took the rest of the goblin's gold. "Would you like me to spin?"
Yes.
The goblin grumbled. He was very unhappy about losing his money. Hershal spun the dreidel. This time, the letter none was on top. "Oh my! I don't give you anything. I get to keep all the gold. Say, that was fun! Get some more gold and we'll play again."
What about the Hanukkah candles?
"We'll light them later. There's plenty of time."
Not for me, the
Goblin said.
I'm leaving now. I don't like this game. I don't like Hanukkah, and I don't like you.
"Don't go," Hershal pleaded. "I know lots of games. Stay a while. We'll have fun."
Goodbye.
The goblin spread his wings, swooped out the door, and flew off into the night. Hershal lit the candles all by himself. On the following nights, other goblins came. One had 6 heads, one had 3 eyes. All were terrible and fierce. They growled and roared and changed themselves into horrible shapes. They tried to stop Hershal from lighting the Hanukkah candles, but Hershal fooled them all. Finally, the 7th night arrived. 8 tiny candles flickered on the windowsill. Hershal felt very sleepy. His eyes closed. Suddenly, he sat up. He heard a horrible sound, a voice that sounded like the cracking of bones. "Happy Hanukkah, Hershal of Ostropol."
Who is it? Who's there?
"Don't you know who I am, Hershal? Weren't you expecting the king of the goblins?" The voice rose to a hurricane roar. It ripped the shingles from the synagogue roof and shattered the windows. The Hanukkah candles reeled in the savage blast, but they did not go out.
You're too early,
Hershal shrieked.
You're not supposed to come until tomorrow.
The great wind died down. "Don't worry, Hershal. I am far away, but I have the power to see you and speak to you. Enjoy this Hanukkah evening, my friend. It will be your last. Tomorrow night I will come for you. You fooled my slaves, the other goblins. Let's see if you can fool me." Poor Hershal. What was he to do? The king of the goblins was on his way, and no power on earth could stop him. Unless Hershal had an idea. It was a big chance, but he had to take it. It was the only way to save himself and Hanukkah. It was the last night of Hanukkah. Hershal set the candles in the menorah, but instead of placing it on the windowsill, he put the menorah and the box of matches on a small table near the door. Then he sat down to wait. night fell. It grew dark as pitch inside the gloomy old synagogue. Outside, the whole world lay cold and silent. Suddenly, a great gust ripped the synagogue door from its hinges. The whole building shook. A fearsome voice spoke. "Hershal of Ostropol!"
Did I hear something?
"It is I, the king of the goblins."
Hershal laughed. Don't be silly. You're one of the boys from the village. You're trying to scare me.
"I am not a boy. I am the king of the goblins."
I'll believe it when I see it. Show yourself to me.
"Behold, I stand before you. Do you believe me now?"
Hershal tried not to look. Even in the darkness, he could see the outline of a monstrous shape filling the doorway, a figure too horrible to describe. He pretended not to care. It's too dark, I can't see anything. A candlestick and some matches are by the doorway. Why don't you light a few candles? Then I'll see what you really are.
"Indeed you shall."
A match flared. The shamus candle caught the flame. Hershal's blood turned to water at the awful sight before him, but he did not lose courage. "Master of the world," he silently prayed, "thou who created the heavens and the earth and the spirits of the air, stand by me now." Then he addressed the goblin. "Still too dark? What are you afraid of? There are plenty of candles. Why not light them all?" A hideous hand took the shamus candle and lit the others one by one. Hershal felt himself growing faint, but he forced himself to look. His eyes grew wider and wider as each candle caught the flame. 6, 7, 8. The king of the goblins stood before him.
"Now, Hershal, do you know who I am?"
"I know you're not Queen Esther."
"Very funny. Enjoy the joke. It will be your last."
"That's what you think. Begone, or I'll take a stick to you."
"How dare you speak to the king of the goblins that way?"
"I'll speak to you any way I please. You have no power. Your spell is broken. See? The menorah is lit. You thought those were ordinary candles you were lighting. They weren't. They were Hanukkah candles, and you lit them yourself." The king of the goblins roared with fury. The earth trembled and a mighty wind arose. It ripped off the synagogue roof and blew down the walls. It splintered the great timbers and scattered them like matchsticks. Around the menorah, the whirlwind howled, but the candles never flickered. They burned with clear, steady flames. The king of the goblins had no power over them. The spirit of Hanukkah had triumphed. The great wind vanished as suddenly as it had risen. Hershal rubbed his eyes. The night was as still as before, even though the synagogue was gone. Walls, floor, roof, even the foundation stones had vanished, but the menorah remained, standing tall upon the little table where Hershal had placed it. Hershal waited until the last candles burned out. Then he started down the road that led to the village. "I'd better hurry," he thought. "I don't want to miss the last night of Hanukkah." There was no reason to worry. In every window there stood a menorah with 9 gleaming candles to light the way. The whole village was waiting for him. I'm crying. I'm tearing up. That's the end! So, I hope you enjoyed this little story about Hanukkah. Tomorrow I am going to try my hand at making latkes using my dad's recipe. We're gonna see how it goes. It's been a while since I've made them, so if anything goes wrong, I blame Alan Elmont. Thank you. Hope you have a lovely 6th night of Hanukkah, or maybe just 7th day of Hanukkah, or whenever I hope you have a lovely day whenever you're watching this. Bye.